3 seconds. That's all it takes to cross the veil between what we call life and what lies beyond. 3 seconds before death, time itself seems to stretch into infinity. 3 seconds after, we awaken into a reality that most of us have forgotten, but all of us will one day remember. Imagine this. Your last breath leaves you, and suddenly the world you once clung to becomes a silent theater. Every sound, every touch, every heartbeat fades. Yet in that fading, something extraordinary is happening. Mystics across the ages have whispered of it, scientists have stumbled upon fragments of it, and those who have returned from the brink describe it with trembling awe. What if the boundary between life and death is not a hard wall but a doorway? What if the most profound moments of our existence occur not during our years of living, but in those fleeting instants of transition? In this journey, we are not merely asking what happens when the body dies. We are daring to peer into the mysteries of consciousness itself. Ancient Egyptians called death the Great Initiation. Tibetan lamas teach that the moment of passing is the supreme opportunity for liberation. Even modern accounts of near-death experiences hint at visions, voices, and an overwhelming sense of release, as though the soul has been waiting for this very moment. But here is the hidden truth. The transition of death does not begin when the body stops breathing. It begins before. In those final 3 seconds, the mind detaches from the physical form, and what unfolds is nothing short of cosmic. And in the 3 seconds after, an entirely new landscape, vivid, luminous, and astonishing, reveals itself. In this video, we will explore what happens in the exact moments leading to death, what ancient traditions, philosophers, and spiritual masters have revealed about the passage of the soul, the strange and powerful experiences that occur in the seconds immediately following, and most importantly, how this knowledge can change the way we live today. So take a breath and hold it for just a moment. In the span of 3 seconds, everything can change. Let us step together into the mystery of what happens 3 seconds before and after death.
Across every culture, every age, and every tradition, death has been the greatest teacher. Not because it ends life, but because it reveals its deepest meaning. To understand what happens in those final 3 seconds, we must first look at how humanity has attempted to describe the passage across this most sacred threshold. In the temples of ancient Egypt, death was not considered an end, but a continuation of life in another dimension. The Book of the Dead, more accurately translated as the Book of Coming Forth by Day, served as a guide for the soul in its journey after the body ceased to breathe. Egyptians believed that in the moments of death, the soul, the ba, separated from the body, while the ka, or life force, lingered. In the first instance after death, the deceased would encounter a mirror of their own heart, weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the principle of truth. This weighing was not symbolic, it was experiential. It occurred immediately as consciousness hovered between worlds. Half a world away, in the Tibetan tradition, the Bardo Thadal, commonly known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, describes in exquisite detail what occurs after death. It states that the moments immediately following the cessation of breath are the most crucial, for the soul encounters the clear light, the pure radiance of ultimate reality. For those prepared, merging with this light is liberation itself. For those unprepared, fear and attachment obscure the radiance, propelling the soul into cycles of rebirth. And once again, it is emphasized that this occurs not days later, but in the very first seconds and minutes after death. In the West, the Greek philosopher Plato echoed similar mysteries in his dialogues. He spoke of the soul as immortal, temporarily housed in the body, and described death as a separation rather than an annihilation. In his Myth of a near-death story preserved in the Republic, a soldier slain in battle glimpses the realms of the afterlife, describing judges, lights, and rivers of forgetfulness, visions that occur precisely in the moments after bodily death.
Even Christianity, though often focused on heaven and hell as destinations, carries traces of this immediate post-death mystery. Early mystics spoke of the particular judgment occurring instantly after death, where the soul is confronted with its true nature and essence long before any final resurrection. Meanwhile, in Hindu philosophy, the Upanishads describe death as a return to the eternal self, the Atman, which is never born and never dies. Yet they emphasize that the transition is deeply influenced by the state of mind in the moments before passing. The Bhagavad Gita states clearly, "At the time of death, whatever state of being one remembers, that state he will attain." Thus, the last 3 seconds of awareness become immensely powerful, shaping the journey that follows. Modern science, though less poetic, is beginning to echo these ancient insights. Neuroscientists have observed unusual bursts of brain activity in the moments before and after clinical death, waves of electrical coherence, as if the mind is attempting one final act of transcendence. Are these mere chemical storms, or are they the echoes of the soul slipping free from matter? Ancient traditions would say the latter. What unites these diverse teachings, from Egypt to Tibet, from Plato to the Upanishads, is the profound recognition that death is not a void, it is a passage. And within that passage, the very first seconds, the 3 before and the 3 after, carry the greatest weight. They are the hinge upon which eternity swings. To truly grasp what occurs, we must now step beyond history and philosophy into the heart of the experience itself. Picture the instant before a candle goes out. The flame trembles, flickers, and for a moment it glows brighter, almost defiant against the encroaching dark. Then, silence. But what if the flame is not gone, only freed from its wick? This is the essence of the final 3 seconds before death. In those seconds, the body begins to release its hold on the soul. The heart slows, the breath falters, and the brain, so often mistaken for the seat of consciousness, sends out its final bursts of electrical energy. Modern studies have shown that even as the body shuts down, the brain can surge with an extraordinary wave of activity, sometimes more organized and coherent than in normal waking life. Ancient mystics would say this is not the brain creating visions, but the mind preparing to detach, glimpsing realms beyond. Here is where time bends. 3 seconds on a clock may feel like an eternity to the departing soul. Just as in dreams, where a lifetime of events can be experienced in minutes, these 3 seconds expand into a vast, timeless space. The dying often report seeing a life review, a cascade of memories, relationships, and choices flashing before them. This is not punishment or judgment, but recognition. It is the soul gathering itself, like a traveler packing for a long journey. But what happens in the body during these 3 seconds is just as mysterious. The pineal gland, often called the seat of the soul, has been suggested by some esoteric traditions to release a flood of DMT, the so-called spirit molecule. Whether this is literal or symbolic, the reports align. A surge of light, color, and visions of other worlds. Many near-death experiencers describe tunnels, radiant beings, or hearing voices that feel both familiar and eternal. Think of it like a diver rising from deep water. As they approach the surface, the world above becomes visible through the shimmering boundary of the sea. The final 3 seconds of life are that shimmering threshold, the soul pressing against the surface of a new reality, glimpsing it before the plunge is complete. This is why so many spiritual traditions emphasize the state of mind at death. Fear, anger, or clinging bind the soul to confusion, just as turbulence makes water murky. Peace, surrender, or devotion clear the waters, allowing the passage to be luminous. The Tibetan texts remind us, whatever arises in the mind at the moment of death, that is what you will become. Then comes the crossing. The body gives its last breath, the heart its final beat, and the soul loosens completely. And now, in the 3 seconds after death, something extraordinary unfolds. The final breath has left. The body, once animated, falls silent, and yet consciousness is not gone. It has only shifted its vantage point. The 3 seconds after death are like the opening of a hidden door, a sudden unveiling of a reality that was always present but unseen. Many describe this first moment as an immense release. Imagine dropping a weight you didn't know you had been carrying your entire life. The heaviness of the body, the aches, the limits, even the gravity that bound you is suddenly absent. What remains is awareness, vast and unshackled, like a bird realizing it has wings. In these seconds, the soul often finds itself still near the body, observing. Countless accounts from near-death experiencers describe floating above, seeing doctors, loved ones, or the scene of their passing. Time flows differently here. Those 3 seconds can stretch, allowing one to witness far more than seems possible. Then comes the light. Traditions from Tibet to the Near East, from indigenous shamans to modern witnesses, speak of a radiant presence that greets the soul immediately after death. Sometimes it is described as a tunnel, sometimes as a being, sometimes simply as a brilliance too vast for words. But always it is suffused with love and intelligence. This light is not external, it is the soul's own essence reflected back with infinite clarity. For some this is blissful, for others it is overwhelming. The light reveals everything, the purity, the flaws, the hidden truths of one's life. It is a mirror, but unlike any mirror we know. Imagine standing before a fire so bright that it warms you, heals you, but also leaves nothing hidden. This is why mystics call it the judgment, though not of wrath, but of revelation. And here lies a subtle but profound mystery. The soul is not forced anywhere, it is guided by resonance. Just as a tuning fork vibrates to its natural frequency, the soul is drawn to the realm or experience that matches its deepest state of being. Those filled with fear or attachment may find themselves wandering in shadowy realms, echoes of their inner turmoil. Those who cultivated peace, love, or devotion may find themselves lifted into luminous domains. This is why preparation matters, not just in the hours of dying, but in how we live every day. The seeds we plant in our thoughts, emotions, and actions blossom in those very first moments after death. The 3 seconds after are not random. They are the unveiling of what we have become. From here, the journey branches. Some traditions speak of guides, angels, ancestors, or luminous beings who appear in these moments to assist the soul. Others describe the passage through the bardo, a dreamlike state where the soul learns, chooses, or prepares for rebirth. But in all accounts, the foundation is laid in those opening instants. Like the first step onto a path, the 3 seconds after death determine the direction of the soul's journey. So, what happens 3 seconds before and after death is not merely biological. It is the most profound initiation, the revealing of consciousness beyond matter. But the great question remains, how can we prepare for it while we still live? If the 3 seconds before and after death reveal our true state, then every moment of life becomes a rehearsal for that passage. The ancient masters never taught about death merely to satisfy curiosity. They spoke of it to transform the way we live today. The first practice is awareness of impermanence. In Buddhist monasteries, monks meditate on death not to invite despair, but to sharpen presence. Imagine holding a flower in your hand. You know it will wither, and because of that, its beauty pierces you more deeply. Likewise, remembering death brings us closer to life. Each breath becomes sacred when you recognize that one day it will be your last. Try this. At random points in your day, pause and whisper inwardly, "If this were my final 3 seconds, what state would I be in?" This gentle reminder can cut through anger, distraction, or pettiness and return you to what matters. The second practice is cultivating inner peace. If fear and clinging cloud the transition, then peace and surrender clear it. Simple techniques, mindful breathing, meditation, or prayer, train the mind to rest in calm awareness. Even 5 minutes daily of silent stillness strengthens the soul's ability to remain lucid when the body trembles in its final moments. Remember, you cannot control when death comes, but you can shape how you meet it. Third, practice life review while alive. Mystics say that the flash of memories at death is not imposed, it is your own consciousness reflecting itself. You can prepare by regularly reflecting, what have I learned? Whom have I hurt? Whom have I loved? Journaling, contemplation, or honest conversations with loved ones help integrate your story while you are still here, softening regrets and amplifying gratitude. This reduces the turbulence of the final review, making it more luminous than chaotic. Another powerful technique is heart alignment. The Egyptians believed the heart was weighed against the feather of truth. To live with a light heart, one must shed unnecessary burdens, resentments, guilt, unspoken words. Forgiveness becomes a spiritual discipline, not for others alone, but for your own soul's ease. Finally, there is the practice of connection with the light. Whether you call it God, Source, the Divine, or simply pure awareness. Through prayer, devotion, or deep meditation, familiarize yourself with that radiance now. When the 3 seconds after death unfold, the light will not feel foreign, but like returning home. All of these practices are not morbid, they are liberating. They remind us that death is not waiting at the end of life, it walks with us in every breath. And when we live with that awareness, life becomes more vivid, more compassionate, more real. To prepare for death is to learn how to truly live.
3 seconds, that is all it takes for the veil between worlds to part. 3 seconds before death, the soul gathers itself, releasing the weight of the body, witnessing a cascade of memories, and preparing for the crossing. 3 seconds after, the great unveiling begins, the release into light, into freedom, into the reality that lies beyond matter. Every tradition, from the Egyptians to the Tibetans, from Plato to the sages of the Upanishads, points to the same truth. These moments are not an ending, but an initiation. Death is not a collapse into nothingness, it is a doorway into everything. The quality of that passage depends not on chance, but on how we have lived, loved, and prepared. And so the question is not merely what happens at death, but how will you meet it? Will it be with fear, clinging to what must pass, or with peace, stepping into the light, with trust? The answer is written, breath by breath, in the way you live now. When you remember that your final 3 seconds could come at any time, life itself sharpens into focus, the small grievances fade, and the essential truths rise to the surface. Kindness matters. Presence matters. Love matters. Everything else dissolves with the body. So live as though your next breath could be your last, not with dread, but with reverence. For if you can meet each moment with awareness, peace, and love, then when the final 3 seconds arrive, you will already know the path. You will recognize the light not as something foreign, but as the home you have carried within you all along. And perhaps, when that moment comes, it will not feel like death at all, but like waking from a long dream.